We've got some lawlessness and order right now. First of all, we're going to start with the good story because sometimes, you know what, I like to tuck it away at the end for just a little pick me up at the back end of this. But you know what, we're just going to switch it up right now because it's fun. It is Sunday after all, and we'll get off on a good foot. And you know what, I see that picture there, and you know what, having a signed MAGA hat, that would be pretty cool. But then also, if I ever get the opportunity to meet President Trump, I think I'd probably bring my copy of Art of the Deal. I think that'd be a better thing to have signed. Anyways, a woman who snatched MAGA hat pleads guilty to hate crimes. We talked about this one way back in the cut. This one took a minute to go through the courts, but justice has been served, and the headline doesn't quite tell the entire story because they were these two broads, they were snatching hats off of kids because they're tough. Two women shown in video swiping a Make America Great Again cap from Trump supporters at the Democrat National Convention. What a bunch of trolls, and what a bunch of set up brass balls on these people to show up to the DNC wearing a MAGA hat. Even just, in certain places like, if you're a famous French actor, let's say in the middle of Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning, going to get some Subway, that constitutes as MAGA country, and it could be very dangerous. So you know what, I applaud these people for just taking that very brave step in doing that. But what crimes do they face? Well, they have reportedly pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of theft, child endangerment, and hate crimes. The hate crime thing is important because it very rarely gets applied fairly. It's mostly one of those things where it's reserved for when white people attack anybody else. Anybody else out there, anybody vaguely ethnic, it doesn't much matter. But in this case, it's actually being properly applied. Maybe this will be the one case that they'll ever cite and is like, see, guess what? We're fair when we apply hate crimes. So I guess we take the little victories. I said that this would be uplifting, but it's kind of a bit of a downer. Olivia Winslow and Cameron Amy. Listen, okay, can't take you seriously if you have two first names. Both of Wilmington, Delaware, obviously, will be sentenced for those charges in September. Plea paperwork and court records indicate the prosecutors will not seek prison time. Why? Oh, because they're women. Other charges include assault, attempted assault, and conspiracy were dropped by prosecutors. Well, it was assault. You snatched a hat off of a kid's head, you fucking dolts. Whatever. The plea deal struck on Monday. Yeah, they just wanted to get a dub on this one. They didn't want to actually serve any justice. Why would the fucking courts want to do that? Prosecutors said the plea was offered with the approval of the victims and declined further comment Tuesday. Attorneys representing the woman said that they agree that the probation is the appropriate sentence and declined further comment. Yeah, it was a pretty, tame crime, but then at the same time, this shit happens. Actually, it always tends to end up being a hell of a lot worse than just snatching up a cap. It's normally, if somebody gets victim, they find themselves on the other end of the knockout game. So, I guess a little bit of justice gets dealt out. What happened with those two broads who ended up trying to carjack that motherfucking Uber Eats driver in Washington, D.C., and then he ended up fucking crashing and dying? They're not getting any jail time, but yeah, I guess we got a couple of fucking dubs from the hat snatchers out there, so whatever. Now for the bad news. I bet you guys all stuck around for that. North Korean defector, so somebody who had to flee communism and quite possibly the worst run regime on earth. So she came over just to be robbed in Chicago by a black woman, held her back, very impressive for like a 90-pound North Korean girl to hold back a not small black woman who mugged her, and then, due to the rowdiness of the crowd that was forming around them, and the fact of the matter is this happened outside of Saks Fifth Avenue in Chicago, they seen somebody who might be misconstrued as being white, immediately said that she was racist for restraining her until the cops arrived, and then had to let her go. Progressivism. Yay. North Korean defector claims she was mugged by 3 black women outside Chicago's Saks Fifth Avenue store last year, but white bystanders accused her of being racist when she tried to call the police. that makes sense, especially last year. And then being outside Saks Fifth Avenue, it was like, okay, normally that's part of the very expensive downtown district in Chicago. The name escapes me at the time, but it doesn't really much matter. But that was also getting lit up by riots on a semi-consistent basis during the summer. So yeah, that totally makes sense why there would have been just rampant crime and why anybody seeing something done by ethnic minority as just, really open season. Yeonmi Park, 27, told Joe Rogan's podcast that she was robbed of her wallet near the department store on Michigan Avenue during a wave of looting across the city last summer. Park, who has been outspoken on woke culture, please just define the terms, obviously, claims she grabbed hold of one of the women and was trying to call the police, but bystanders intervened. She claimed about 20 people, many of whom she said were white. Obviously, it's the rich district of Chicago outside of Saks Fifth Avenue, and that's where, all the yuppies hang out. So, yeah, it makes complete sense in this case, and then especially what they had to say afterwards. Many of them being racist and blaming blaming Park for being racist for trying to detain somebody who tried to mug her. Makes sense. They were telling me that the color of my skin doesn't make them a thief. No, their action of burglary is what makes them a thief. Calling a black person a thief is racist. What? Park claims the woman was trying to started punching her. Yeah. So, okay, if the robbery is justifiable, what about the assault? What about being punched in the face? Is that off the hook too? Okay. I tried to call the police and they prevented me from calling the police. Why? That's when I was thinking this country lost it. Very much so. And that's a damning indictment, and to be completely fair, this is Chicago after all, and Chicago is just kind of one of those pockets of absolute hell, and why anybody would be there at this point in time, I don't understand it. I think most of the people who have access to get out of there, anybody who is still of sound mind and body, has long since fled Chicago and many major metropolitan cities, and have scurried off to the bastions of the rural counties of your state, if you do so appreciate it, or those vaunted flyover states. They became a little bit more welcoming, let's say, in the wake of 2020 riots. But somebody who escaped North fucking Korea, thinking that the country's lost it because apparently black people can do no wrong. I hate that. I hate it a lot. Speaking of things I hate, disturbing video shows woman casually shoot victim dead on crowded New York City street. Oh boy. Kind of see why we wanted a little pick-me-up to begin with. Shocking video obtained by the Post shows the moment a woman with a gun walked up to another woman and shot her dead in a crowded Prospect Heights Street Tuesday before casually strolling away. Obviously, I can't show you the video because I don't need it destroyed off the channel, but we can go through some stills, I'm sure. Video shows a shooter wearing a purse walking up to a 42-year-old Delilah Johnson, that is one of the most generic names I've ever heard, and shoot the unsuspecting victim in the head while she was having a conversation with some people sitting on the stoop of a building on Franklin Avenue near Prospect Place. Shooting happened at around 9:40 p.m., police sources said. Yeah, it was pretty grisly, and the link to this article is going to have the video in it as well, but you know what, for posterity's sake. After the victim drops to the ground, the shooter fires off several more shots. The video shows as nearby crowds duck for cover and run. The shooter nonchalantly walks away and gets into a white SUV that's double parked in the street. And let's be fair, guys, sometimes you need to find a parking stall and somebody's double parked out there. What's the more heinous crime? You know, a parking infraction that's really going to inconvenience you, or somebody just fucking taking a fat L? Let's be honest here. Anyways, parked on the street with hazard lights flashing. See, at least they did the bare minimum on this one. Johnson was found unconscious and unresponsive afterwards, and she was pronounced dead after being taken to Interfaith Hospital, cops said. Yeah, and it's highly unlikely they're going to find the shooter, mostly because I couldn't think of a more demoralized police service than that of the NYPD. They've been shit on by pretty much everybody, okay? Everybody in power, everybody's in control. They have a little light at the end of the tunnel with Eric Adams probably going to be the new mayor of New York City, but they still have to wade through all of the insanity of Bill de Blasio at the time being, and shit like this just continues to happen on the reg, and I'd love to not be able to report on it because it's just, you know, more senseless fucking crime, but unless people talk about it, unless people talk about the continued descent into absolute madness of these large cities, it's never going to get better. And it needs to get better because this type of lawlessness and rampantness is reserved for certain shithole countries. Not for America, not for Canada, not for anywhere in the developed world, not for the place where people actually want to live, nor should it be anywhere else, but you gotta take care of what's in your own backyard first. Well, let's talk about Barry O's big birthday bash that just happened. Yeah, funny story with that one. With that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.